How are my homies doing? What's up, guys? Happy Monday to you. I am back like I never left. We were just here last night watching Bash at the Beach 2000. That was a blast. Literally. So much fun. So much fun. Thank you, everyone who joined us, I should say, last night for that. And now we're back to talk about Raw this evening as we are heading into our final push, home stretch to what's going to be a really big pro wrestling weekend coming up in just a few days, Saturday and Sunday. Packed full of shows. We even have an NXT Great American Bash thrown in there somewhere. So there's a lot going on every brand across the entire world of pro wrestling right now here in the States. And tonight's Monday Night Raw was the final setup for Evolution and for Saturday night's main event. The big main event, I'm assuming at Evolution, is going to be Io Sky versus Rhea Ripley. They only furthered that this evening with a video package, but they did have Goldberg and Gunther have a little final confrontation. Very simple. You know, it doesn't look like they went through a whole heck of a lot of trouble to book this segment. It was just Gunther coming out and then Goldberg punching him, and that was it. So, despite that, I think tonight's Raw was still pretty good because we had big matches on the show. We had Kairi Sane versus Roxanne Perez. We had Sami Zayn versus Braun Breaker. We had Bronson Reed versus Jey Uso. And we had Seth Rollins versus Penta. A lot of big matches on the show, and I think tonight's show was pretty decent. So I want to know what you guys think of it. Do you agree with me? Was tonight a good show, bad show, in the middle? I'll give it a B, I guess, because of, I think, the quality of the matches, at least on paper, even though one ended in a DQ and the other one had the Karrion Kross factor in it. Still cool to see Penta and Rollins in the main event here. And even though it is kind of a go-home show to two big events coming up this weekend, it still felt somewhat run-of-the-mill, to me. You had a feeling that LA Knight, we weren't going to probably see CM Punk tonight because Seth Rollins has his match coming up on Saturday with LA Knight. So if we were going to see Rollins mix it up with anybody, thought it was going to be LA Knight, and it did turn out to be that as he came in at the very end of the show and hit Seth Rollins with a BFT. So overall, not bad. I thought they could have gotten a little bit more creative, or I think they could have been a lot more creative with the entire Goldberg and Gunther saga. I'm no Goldberg fan. I'm ready for him to go. I don't know why I really would care if the creative is good or not, but it really feels about as bare bones and basic as you can get, with this. It's almost like, all right, let's just give Goldberg his fucking retirement match and move on. That's kind of the energy I'm getting from this. So for all the fans that are, thinking that there's a real possibility of Goldberg winning the title on Saturday, I'm sorry to tell you, I just don't think there is. I don't see any universe where that would be possible. Even though the Seth Rollins could cash in, he's not gonna. He could. I'm not one of those people that say definitively not gonna happen, or whatever. I just don't think it's gonna happen. I don't see it happening. If it does, I will be very surprised. So I think, when it comes to Saturday, I think it's going to be probably a largely phoned-in show as well. So WWE's not really doing their talent any favors right now, specifically the women, the way they've, booked Evolution. And, they got a pretty small crowd going to be on hand for this thing. They threw it together in just a matter of days, and they put it on a weekend, where it doesn't benefit them at all. The only reason they did it is to be a dick, and they did it at the expense of the women, and I think that's a really shitty thing to do. I think putting Evolution the week after, maybe in the middle of August, or in its original slot in October, might have been the better option here, but nope, can't do that when you're the petty WWE. So it's going to be where it's going to be, and even though the card, I should say, on paper, looks pretty good, you can't help but feel like the women have just been done a little bit wrong on this one. So final push here for Evolution and Saturday night's main event. We also have SmackDown coming up this coming Friday. And also, AEW is going to have a pretty big Dynamite on Wednesday, as that's their go-home show to All In. So we are going to be here all weekend long. I still have to figure out exactly what I'm doing on Saturday. Haven't had really a chance to figure it out exactly, but we're going to be here Thursday for a 3-show prediction stream. We're going to go live at 6 Eastern for that. Link will be coming in the next day or so. Evolution, Saturday night's main event, and All In. We will predict all 3. And then on Saturday, I might be up here for a watch-along for All In, just not quite sure yet how I want to balance the watch-alongs and reviews for all 3 shows. I want to make sure that I can watch some with you and be able to review them all, and I just got to figure out how we're going to balance all that out. So that's still kind of on my plate, and I'm sorry that you have no links for that yet, but you will see a link for Thursday's prediction stream here real soon. So just keep a lookout on the channel for all that stuff, because you are going to see a lot of me this week and all weekend long. So get ready for that. Other than that, let's say hello to some people and bust out this review. Not going to be a terribly long podcast. We have a little bit of news that just broke maybe in the last 30 minutes that we'll touch on briefly. But other than that, we're going to mostly focus on the Raw review because we were here on Saturday for a big podcast. And it was a holiday weekend, so it's not like we had a ton of news to get into anyway. So we'll pretty much concentrate on the Raw review, and then I'm going to bounce and have some tacos tonight. So I hope you guys are having a great Monday night, and I hope your summers are going well. Good to see Always Radio, Rodrigo, Melissa, Tatanani, Zayn G. Raw was short. I think Raw was like the same amount of time it always is. It always feels like it's 2.5 hours now. They usually close right at the bottom of the second hour there for about a 2.5 hour show, give or take. But tonight ended about on time, I thought. I could be wrong though. Who else is here? Ajax Johnson. Michael Games is here. Say his name and he appears. Right on. Nick Musser, Intimidators in the house. How you guys doing? Mike Games. Hey, Greg, I finally got around to watching the documentary about how Seattle lost the NBA team. A lot of shady shit went down. I don't think I've seen that documentary, but anytime a team moves, it's always shady shit. My own city right here in San Diego has had to deal with that a couple of times, and what went down with the Chargers was very frustrating for us. And every time there's any sort of movement or relocation, it's drama every time. The Colts leaving in the middle of the night to Indianapolis, even Baltimore, or even Cleveland, turning into the Ravens, and then, the Browns getting the franchise back. With the the Oakland Raiders to LA Raiders to Vegas Raiders, the LA Rams to St. Louis Rams to back to LA Rams. It's always a fucking mess, and it's always dramatic, and it's always sketchy and shady, and it's usually centered around greed every time, and it's just a shame. What's up, Ricky Zalbadar? David Brown is also here. We have Ram K and Denny Downbad. Good to see you. And the Juliet. For some reason, I didn't get the notification that the stream was live. Yeah, I hear that sometimes. Now, I did put up this link a little bit late today, but otherwise, you should have been getting notifications. But I think that's just kind of a problem now, and people aren't getting notified when we live. But what can you do about that? Good to see everybody here tonight. Thank you so much for hanging out with us on this probably relatively brief Raw review. Do me a favor as I'm pulling up this news story I want to tell you guys about. Smash that thumbs up button for me if you would. And we did get some news that broke just a little while ago in regard to the Janelle Grant and Vince McMahon lawsuits. Janelle Grant picked up a victory today in courts as the Connecticut Superior Court ruled that Grant's bill of discovery against Carlin Colker and Peak Wellness will be filed. So that's now we're going to have depositions and all that. We're going to have a lot of information coming out, once this all gets going. And of course, Colker was, the physician that was prescribing Janelle Grant. It's all very, very messy, but, up until now, this was just a motion that was filed. So now that it's been ruled that we can actually move into discovery, we're going to probably learn some more information that's not going to make Vince McMahon or WWE look too good. So we shall see. But that's some more news that came out on this ongoing Vince McMahon, Janelle Grant lawsuit situation. I've kind of been following mostly John Pollock and Brandon Thurston's coverage of that. They tend to do a really good job in breaking it down for the layman's. But kind of big news there. I mean, I think you're going to see very few victories for Vince, when it comes to, some of these, little court motions and stuff because, you just are. Anyway, let's get into Monday Night Raw tonight. We'll talk more about the Vince stuff once we learn more and once everything gets moving a little bit more. If we start getting even more grisly details about some of the things that went down with Janelle and Vince, we will definitely talk about them here. That ruling there, that they're going to file the bill of discovery against Colker is pretty good news, I would say. Anyway, let's move on to tonight's Monday Night Raw. July 7th, 2025. They were live in Providence in the same building. It's changed names a couple of times, but in the same building as the Royal Rumble 1994, the Brett and Luger tie, and Undertaker levitated to the heavens and all that. Right there in that building, it's still kicking. And Providence is it's WWE land. You know, back in the day, you know, those cities up there, Providence and Worcester and Hershey, Pennsylvania would be another one. Of course, New York, Madison Square Garden. You know, up there in that area, that's WWE land. That's WWE territory. The crowds have always been good. Now in 2025, I'm not so sure. But tonight's crowd seemed okay. I think we've seen worse ones recently. That one in Pittsburgh a couple weeks ago wasn't too great. Or that was last week maybe. And then we had Seth Rollins and his crew opening up the show. They're all coming out there to Rollins' music, Slow Walk to the Ring. And Rollins sits there while the crowd is singing his theme song. And then he extends his hand for Heyman to give him the mic. And then Braun Breaker comes in and intercepts it. So right from the very start of this faction being made, there's been little teases of Braun Breaker making a funny face, not, giving some sort of impression that maybe he's not fully on board with this idea. And now he takes away the microphone. Seth Rollins looks all confused. Heyman looks all confused. And then Breaker says that he is in this ring right now because Paul Heyman and Seth Rollins have a vision to make him the face of the company for the next 2 decades. And while he's saying this, there's a little bit of confusion on the face of Rollins and Heyman. And he then says that he wants to live in a WWE without Sami Zayn. And he's got a match with him later on tonight, and he vows to take him out. So then Bronson Reed gets on the mic, says a few things. He says Jey Uso is going to learn to respect him, or he's going to beat the respect into him, just like he did to Seth Rollins. So that's both Bronson and Braun Breaker, both, making little comments about Seth Rollins as if he's not even there when he's standing right in the ring. So it feels like they're just kind of planting the seeds for whatever sort of future split we're going to get here in this faction. And then Heyman gets on the mic to mention Roman Reigns. He says Roman doesn't have the balls to come face us. So they're dropping Roman's name. That's about as much of a guarantee as you're going to get that Roman Reigns is going to be a part of SummerSlam. So now it's a matter of probably next week, I would say. Next week on Raw, I think they need to bring out Roman Reigns. I think Roman needs to appear next week. Rollins is going to have his match against LA Knight at Saturday night's main event. He's probably either going to win that or deliver a severe beatdown to LA Knight with his cronies with him. Probably going to get a CM Punk run in there, something like that. Then Punk maybe comes out on Raw, and he's getting beat down by all those guys, and then Roman comes out to make the save. Feels like something like that might go down. And maybe we get Seth Rollins and CM Punk and Roman Reigns versus Braun Breaker at SummerSlam. If they wind up doing that, that would be great. Or it might be a tag team match. I feel like it shouldn't be, but it might be. Maybe it's Roman and Punk again, or maybe it's Roman. Maybe Sammy's on the shelf for a little bit. He's dealing with Cross, though. So I could be Roman, Punk, and Sammy, against the 3 of them. That's kind of what we thought we were originally going to get at one point. So I feel like Roman is probably going to be back on Raw by next week, because if he's going to be involved in a SummerSlam match against anybody, he can't come back any later than next week, because it's already going to be the fucking 13th. One SummerSlam, August 3rd or something. So we're talking, 3 weeks of build they all only have? So you got to get Roman back on TV. And I feel like it would have to be on Monday night unless they want to hype it up one more week longer than that. Not sure. But anyway, that was pretty much the gist of the whole Rollins and crew opening promo. Also, Paul Heyman, I guess, is now calling himself, we've heard this because WWE apparently trademarked it, but apparently we heard about the trademark for the Oracle, or we've heard something about the Oracle. So fans were thinking that the name of the faction is going to be called the Oracle. Well, apparently Paul Heyman is just going to be known as Seth Rollins' Oracle. So I guess how he was Brock and Roman's advocate, he's going to be Rollins' Oracle. Okay. And we've also still waiting, to get some sort of an official name on this faction, the Visionaries or the Vision, or I don't know what the hell they're going to do. I still like Dangerous Alliance, but I feel like if it was going to be Dangerous Alliance, they would have already made that decision weeks ago. So we will see. We cut backstage after that. This was great. Probably my favorite part of the show. I made it the thumbnail here. We cut backstage to Finn Balor sitting there in the Judgment Day clubhouse, and he's at a table, and he's got that big, we've seen that shit-eating grin that Balor has had on his face lately, especially when he's stirring the pot with Roxanne and Raquel and Dom and Liv and all that. He's just a grinning fucking fool out there. And so now he's sitting at the table, and he literally has this buffet of belts. He's got the Intercontinental Championship that belongs to Dominic Mysterio. He's got the World Tag Team Championships that belong to him and JD McDonough, and he's got the women's tags that belong to Roxanne and Raquel, and he is polishing them up, shining them up, big-ass grin on his face. We pan off to the right, and we see Dominic receiving, well, first Raquel and Roxanne have a little chatter, and Roxanne has a match with Kairi Sane later on tonight, and Raquel basically tells her she better take care of business, and then Dom thanks JD and Finn Balor for this get-well-soon cake that's sitting there, and they're both like, we didn't get you the cake, and they say it, like, in unison with each other. We didn't get you the cake, and then they, like, walk off like a couple of twins, and then Dom opens up the cake, and it says, get well soon, Dom, like, love AJ, and he turns around, and AJ is, like, lurking behind the fucking partition there, and he just kind of does the meet the parents thing to Dominic, so that whole little segment there gave me a chuckle. I'm kind of liking AJ hiding behind things. Last week when he put his glasses on because, he's old, I got a huge kick out of. We talked about AJ Styles a lot on the podcast on Saturday regarding his contract status, and apparently it is rumored that he has signed a 1-year extension because he has told people close to him that apparently that's what happened there. So WWE never officially announced anything, but he is on TV, and if you do the math, his contract should have been up by now, so that 1-year extension seems like it's legit. And I'm happy about that because I would not have wanted to see AJ Styles retire here this year when we got Goldberg's thing on Saturday. We got Cena's at the end of the year. Retire next year. That way you can kind of have the spotlight to yourself. You know what I mean? So AJ and Dominic will have their Intercontinental title match at some point whenever Dom is finally healed. And that will probably at this point be SummerSlam. And I like the idea of Dominic or AJ Styles beating Dominic at SummerSlam, winning the Intercontinental title, and then Cody defeating John Cena for the championship at SummerSlam, and then you book John Cena versus AJ Styles at Clash in Paris for the Intercontinental title, and John Cena has a chance to win the one belt he's never won. He's going to win that thing before Sheamus does. Might be good, but I feel like if Cody beats Cena, we've got to do one more. I feel like if Cody beats Cena, there would have to be one more match or something. Maybe not, hopefully not. But the idea of a John Cena and AJ Styles match before John Cena retires in just a couple of months, before his 15 appearances is used up, I would love to get one more with AJ. Would love it. After that, we had the one-on-one match between Kairi Sane and Roxanne Perez. Fun little match here. Excellent camera work by the cameraman, getting the great shot of Kairi doing a top rope dive to Raquel Rodriguez on the outside of the ring. Just looked tremendous. And then back in the ring right after that spot, Kairi is able to roll up Roxanne for a quick 3 count and the win. After the match, there's a post-match beatdown. Raquel and Roxanne start to beat up Kairi Sane until Asuka runs out there to make the save. They beat down Roxanne and Raquel, and Kairi Sane delivers an insane elbow to Roxanne when Asuka is holding her. Just a really cool tag team move there. And then later on, backstage, a couple of segments later, they run back there to talk to Adam Pearce, and Adam Pearce decides to reunite the Kabuki Warriors and straight out give them the spot in the 4-way tag team title match at Evolution. It's supposed to be Roxanne and Raquel defending against a Raw, SmackDown, and NXT team. I know the NXT team is picked. I think they qualified for it. And then on SmackDown, we saw Alexa and Charlotte win their match. And I kind of chuckled at first. I'm like, oh my God, Pierce had to give them the shot at the title because there's no other team on Raw to have a qualifier against. They got rid of Caden and the other one. And then I saw on Twitter, people were pointing out, well, hey, what about Maxine and Natty? Yeah, what about Maxine and Natty? Apparently they're already in the Battle Royal, so they couldn't book them for the match. And, and if that wasn't the case, why didn't they just put Raquel and Roxanne both? If you're going to pin a champion anyway, because Roxanne got pinned here, why not just make it an eliminator match? Why not just do Kairi and Asuka versus Raquel and Kairi, and it's an eliminator match, and if they win, they get put in the 4-way? Anything. The fact that Pierce is like, okay, you guys can just have the match when everybody else had to qualify, I thought was a little bit weird and very, very lazy, especially when there is a team there. You do have Maxine, you do have Natty. Maybe WWE feels that they don't have to put Natty on TV because she's having so much fun, in the independents. I'm loving what she's doing, and she's doing all the fights. She's got the mouth guard and the bodysuit, and I am just such a massive Natalya Hart fan. I feel like she's been constantly just done dirty in that promotion, and I feel like she should have been the first women's Intercontinental Champion, and she should have passed it to Lyra, who then could move into all this shit that she's doing with Bayley and Becky right now. I feel like Natty should have been it. She should have been it. I'm a big Natty fan for more than one reason. Oh my God. After that, we go to commercial, and every time there's a commercial, you still see shit on Netflix. I barely pay any mind. A lot of times it's an interview hosted by Jackie up in the crowd. And she was up there with she wasn't with Jackie. New Day came out to the aisle. Jackie was up there with Cross and Scarlett later on, and Natty and Maxine. But prior to that, during a commercial spot, New Day comes out to the entry aisleway there, and my God, these drama queens dressed in all black, veil, black roses. They look like they're creatures of the night. Obviously they're in mourning after their championships were stolen from them last week, so got kind of a kick out of that, and we would see them a couple of segments later on backstage with Adam Pearce when he's hanging out with the War Raiders and New Day, and they're talking about trying to figure out who's going to get the next title shot and whatnot. And that's when Becky Lynch stops by. So Becky Lynch stops by and offers New Day condolences for losing the tag team titles and says, hey, you know what? The best thing you ever did was getting rid of Big E. That guy is a scumbag. Oh, that is so great because there is history there. Big E has had a long-time crush on the mother of Becky Lynch. She is even, or was, I don't know if she still is, but back in the day, she was his banner on Twitter was Becky Lynch's mom. So I really, really loved that little nod between Becky and Big E there. But those two segments between the New Day commercial spot and the backstage stuff with Becky was a couple of segments apart, because in between then is when we had Sami Zayn versus Braun Breaker. So Sami Zayn is making his way to the ring, and he is viciously attacked from behind by Karrion Kross. He's got some sort of a pipe or a metal bar of some kind, and he's just beating the shit out of Sami Zayn. Officials have to run out there to move away Cross and Scarlett, and then we go into the commercial break, which is 3 minutes, and every commercial break is 3 minutes, so Sami Zayn took that 3 minutes to basically recover. We get him in the ring, Adam Pearce is out there, and during the commercial break, Sami is insisting that he can go. No, I can do it, you know me, I want to fight, I refuse to walk away from this, and just ring the fucking bell. So we come back from commercial, match starts, Breaker absolutely dominates Sami. Sami can't do anything, so Breaker's just sitting there. He's talking to the announcers like, what am I supposed to do? This guy's fucking dead over here. So he beats the hell out of Sami and continues to beat him down throughout the course of the match until Sami gets a little bit of offense in, starts to fight back a little bit. My God, did he get nailed off. I guess it was on the second rope, right? Sami comes off the second rope, and Breaker just spears him into fucking Jupiter. Takes him right out, and then Sami, after eating that spear, you'd think that would be the finish, right? But no, Sami rolls out to the outside of the ring. Then Breaker just does his big running around the ring thing, and he spears Sami again. Then he throws him in the ring, and he spears him one more time, breaks him right in half, and gets the win. And Breaker over Sami Zayn with the assist from Karrion Kross. Breaker might have won that match anyway, but Sami Zayn does own a pretty big victory over Braun Breaker from several months back. Remember on Raw? Was that for the IC? Or was that was Jay that beat him for the IC, but Sami beat him too earlier this year, something. So Breaker got one over Sami, and we would hear Breaker talk about that a little bit later on. After that, it was the Becky Lynch promo. I mentioned her saying something to the New Day earlier when she was walking out to the ring. Now she's out there, and I like on paper the fact that we've got this three-way feud here for the Intercontinental Championship for the women, because all three ladies I'm a big fan of. Becky Lynch and Bayley and Lyra, like them all. I've had a lot of complaints, though, about this whole situation because everything that they have done, literally everything that they have done since this whole nonsense started, has been just obnoxiously predictable. like way predictable. Like you could tell, you could see what they were going to do 5 steps ahead. You know, there's nothing creative going on here. There's nothing interesting going on here. It's completely on the shoulders of Bayley, Becky, and Lyra to make this thing interesting at all for the fans. The matches in the ring have been good because all 3 are good. I think the triple threat has potential to be a solid match. But, you know, a lot of these promos are just kind of like lame and stupid. And tonight's was one of my least favorite that they have ever done. Lyra Valkyria, I think, has been great. I think she's been passing the tests WWE is putting in front of her. And when she's in the ring, she's an athlete. She knows how to work. I like Lyra a lot. And even when she's been in the ring, sharing the ring with veterans like a Bayley, like a Becky Lynch, she does not seem like she is out of place, out of her league, outshined in any way. She really carries herself well and holds her own in there, I've thought, all the way up until now, including tonight. But, you know, just some of the dialogue here is like, what are we fucking doing? Last week when we had that match, we knew before the match was even announced, prior to last week's Intercontinental title match, before they even announced that title match, we knew that whatever they were going to do in the build was going to result in a triple threat at Evolution. So as soon as they booked that match last week, we're like, well, we know what's going to happen. It's going to be a schmaz. Boom, we're into the 3-way. That's exactly what happened. They made that official sometime this week, I guess. And now Becky is out there. She's a little bit upset about this triple threat stipulation because that puts her at a disadvantage. And she wants to be able to pick her opponent the same way Io Sky and Tiffany did. And she goes, I want to pick you right there, the lady in the front row. That's why you're not picking your opponent, Becky. And then Bayley comes out, followed right behind Lyra. Both of them had about a sentence or two of dialogue on the mic, and that's it. A big brawl ensues, and Lyra wound up standing tall here. So the 3 of them will be going at it at Evolution. I would like Lyra to win back the Intercontinental title, but I don't think she needs to, or I don't think she needs to. I think she can be moved on after this. I think she can be a world title contender. If they want to make her champ one more time, that's great, but I wouldn't mind maybe a Bayley and Becky feud after all this is said and done, and, you know, maybe Lyra can find herself into the world title scene, you know, because we're going to have Rhea Ripley and Io Sky, which, by the way, they will likely be the main event at Evolution, I would assume, that it's got to be that. And in the go-home show, all we got was a video package between the two. I'm surprised at that. You know, if they put him in the ring again, well, it probably wouldn't have been much. It probably would have been very simple. And, you know, we might have even been complaining about the simplicity of the segment or the booking or the laziness of it, even if it did happen. But if that is going to be your main event at Evolution, the fact that these women weren't in the ring tonight to help, you know, build that is really weird. The entire treatment of Io Sky has been weird. You know, I went on a pretty big defense of Rhea Ripley over the weekend on the podcast, you know, because you were hearing the Ripley Hogan stuff, and these fans are just out of their fucking minds, and no fan can stomach or tolerate, you know, anybody winning at all without them automatically thinking that it's creative control and blah, 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 you know. And so I disagree with all of that, but I do agree that WWE should have been doing more with Io Sky. She had a great first few months of the year, major victories, upset victories, big victory at WrestleMania. Finally, you know, it's not like, you know, Triple H has always liked Io Sky and always treated her well, but we haven't seen much of her. You know, we see her a lot in backstage segments and you know, and a couple of promos here and there, but she has not been featured on TV as much as she should for your women's champion. And so maybe that's what has a lot of fans fearful. Well, God, WWE's barely doing anything with her. She's just going to go right into Evolution and drop the belt back to Rhea. She could. You know, she was the one that beat Rhea for it. Maybe WWE wants Rhea Ripley to be champion going into SummerSlam because they have some sort of big match in mind. You know, I would like to think if WWE puts an end to this, you know, pretty depressing or disappointing, I should say, run of Io Sky's, you better have a good reason for it, you know, because fans are going to be, you know, instantly angry, you know. So, you know, I'm wondering if, you know, maybe, you know, if they put the belt on Rhea Ripley because they want her to be champion again so she can put over somebody else and make another star like a Stephanie Becker or something in the future, I'm fine with it. But I think that Io Sky has deserved a little bit better. And when you're trying to think of what's going to happen between Io Sky and Rhea Ripley this Sunday, you have to think about SummerSlam. Because one thing I've noticed with a lot of the complaining and a lot of the cynicism around the Io Sky and Rhea Ripley match is that it's all tunnel vision. It's all just surrounding that one match. They're not thinking about anything before or after it. And you got to think about what WWE might do at SummerSlam. Io Sky should just beat Rhea Ripley. Okay, but then what's Rhea Ripley going to do at SummerSlam? Oh, just put her in the ring with anybody. That's not what WWE's going to do. She's the top women's star, one of the most popular wrestlers on the entire roster, male, female, and all three brands. She's probably in your top 2 or 3 on the entire roster. She is going to be in a major match at SummerSlam. So if she's not going to be involved in some sort of an attraction match with some sort of celebrity or something, what would Rhea Ripley do at this point at SummerSlam if it's not in a championship match? So I think we have 2 possibilities here at Evolution. Rhea Ripley simply just wins back the championship and then defends against someone at SummerSlam, or it's another one of these wonky finishes where Ripley, feels like she got cheated. Io Sky holds onto the belt, so Ripley's then going to get another opportunity at SummerSlam, and then maybe it's a triple threat or something. Somebody might get involved. Could be Asuka and Kairi. We don't know. If Asuka and Kairi were to win the tag team championships in that fatal 4-way, and then they come out to help Io Sky beat Rhea Ripley, and then we've got a new damage control, Kabuki control. We got Kabuki control. Okay, and it's Io, Asuka, and Kairi Sane. All 3 of them are decked in gold now, and they come out and they help Io beat Rhea Ripley. That would make Io a heel. I guess all 3 of them would turn heel. But it doesn't have to be that way. They could just come out for support and fuck up and accidentally screw Rhea, and then they try to still be baby faces. I feel like if Io Sky is going to survive and walk out of Evolution with the championship, she's going to have some help to do that. I can't just see a clean match happening between those 2 with Io just simply winning and retaining. It just doesn't seem like a scenario that's going to happen. So, maybe there's not going to be much time between then and SummerSlam. So, if Ripley was going to win the title, then she's going to have to probably still face Io Sky. Otherwise they're going to have just a couple of weeks to set some completely new challenger up. And I think that would be a waste to make it Stephanie Vaquer. I think Stephanie Vaquer and Rhea Ripley is something that WWE at least needs to have in the back of their mind for WrestleMania. And I think if they try to hot shot that at SummerSlam, it's too quick. It's way too quick. So I can't see it being somebody like that. I mean, I could be wrong. I just can't see that being it. Can't see it being that scenario. Maybe after the IC title situation is done with Bayley and Lyra and Becky, assuming Becky retains at Evolution, maybe Lyra gets the title shot against, Rhea Ripley or something like that. But it feels like it's probably still going to be Ripley and Io related. Let's say Kairi Sane and Asuka, the Kabukis, fall short in the tag title match. It could just be Asuka coming out to show her face or interfere, and we could still get like an Io Sky, Asuka, Rhea Ripley triple threat at SummerSlam. Or you put Ripley with all 3 of the Kabukis. That scenario I mentioned earlier with Kairi and Asuka winning the tag titles, and coming out and screwing Ripley. Maybe it's a 4-way. I don't know. But like whatever you're trying to think about for the outcome of Evolution, you got to think about SummerSlam. How will that affect SummerSlam? How will Io winning or Rhea winning, where will that put them at SummerSlam? Instead of just saying, I don't care, Rhea just needs to lose no matter what. I'm like, you got to think bigger picture than that, because sometimes it's okay if that person wins, especially if there's a bigger picture or a bigger idea to make another megastar. Back in 2014, when Daniel Bryan got injured and they hung the 2 belts up in that Money in the Bank and Cena pulled them off, the fans were losing their minds. And I'm the only one sitting here going, it's going to be fine. He's going to drop it to Brock at SummerSlam. Oh my God, I'm freaking out. So if Ripley has got something like that in mind and Triple H has got a bigger picture for her, fine. But based on everything we've seen from Triple H's booking lately, I don't trust that. I don't trust it at all. And I feel like whatever happens here probably has a better chance of being a disappointment than a success. Because what the fuck have they been doing with Io Sky? I feel like they're almost in a situation to where no matter kind of what they do in this match, fans are going to have some sort of point of contention. They're going to have something to complain about. And they might not be wrong. So, I don't know what the right direction here is for SummerSlam. For your Beckys, your Baileys, your Lyras, your Ripleys, your Ios, your Asukas, your Kairis, but that's a good handful of really good women's talent there on one show. that should all be doing significant things at SummerSlam. Let me know what you guys think of that and what direction they could go with Ripley. We've got Super Chats rolling in here. Actually, I'll hit those right here at the end since we only have a few matches left to talk about. Let's move on to Seth and company backstage. They're all sitting down. Braun Breaker wants to know what they should do about Karrion Kross. I found that a little bit interesting. I'm like, what if Rollins' crew, kind of overlaps into Kross a little bit? That might be kind of interesting. Seth Rollins says, I don't give a shit about Kross, but Braun is worried that fans are going to think he can't do it on his own, so he feels like Kross needs to be dealt with. Then Paul Heyman walks in, very somber. He goes, you guys haven't heard? And they all get all worried, and then Heyman smiles, and he goes, Sami Zayn is out indefinitely. So they are celebrating Sami Zayn being injured, and I think that he's probably going to be out just in time to come back and set up something at SummerSlam. So I feel like Punk and Rollins should be headed towards a blow-off. But if it's not, then I would do Punk and Rollins Punk and Roman and Sammy against Rollins' crew. Just do the big three-way or something. Either way, we're going to see Roman Reigns coming back. And if they want to make it a tag, like a six-man, great. Or if you want to split them all up, you could do that as well. And you could have Rollins take on Punk and Braun Breaker take on Roman Reigns. I put on Twitter the other day that if Paul Heyman, ever wants to add a woman to the group, they could maybe recruit Braun Breaker's sister, Britt Breaker. She can come in. Apparently she wants out of where she's currently working. After that, it is Big Bronson Reed versus Jey Uso. Uso comes out. Providence goes apeshit, of course. This match didn't last too long because Jey Uso goes for a suicida, and Bronson Reed just throws a chair right in his face and then brings him in the ring and hits him with two tsunamis. So Michael Cole, after Rollins beat Penta in the main event, said that Rollins and crew was 3 for 3 on the night, but I'm pretty sure that was a DQ loss for them, right? Bronson Reed got DQ'd. I think that's a win for Jey Uso, not for Bronson Reed, but it's still a victory since Jey got squashed literally by two gigantic tsunamis from Bronson Reed. Up next, it was Dragon Lee taking on El Grande Americano. Now, the announcers have been going crazy about El Grande Americano for the past week. We talked about this last week on the review, that people think that this is not the same El Grande Americano. It's the exact same one. The Creed brothers backstage, and Corey and Michael Cole tonight. We're saying Gable is injured. Chad Gable is injured. Who gives a shit if Chad Gable is injured? It has nothing to do with El Grande Americano. And people are saying that it definitely had to be Chad Gable because if you look at this El Grande Americano, he is taller. Well, like I said last week, I'm really sick of having to explain this to stupid people. So look, idiots, here's the deal, okay? El Grande Americano is the same El Grande Americano it's always been. The reason he looks taller is because Mexican inches are more than American inches. Read a fucking book. God damn, you idiots. So sick of hearing this. It's not the same guy. Yes, it is. So anyway, El Grande Americano, the same height and weight that he's always been, is in there against Dragon Lee, and of course he gets the win there using the same tactic that he's always used. If this was a different person, how would he know to put the thing in the mask, So of course he's got the loaded little piece of steel there. He puts it in his mask. He headbutts Dragon Lee square in his fucking face and gets the win. And El Grande Americano continues to roll. I think there's big things in this future, and there is gold coming his way. So for the fans to think this is some sort of Sin Cara situation or whatever, get your heads out of your asses. Get your heads out of your asses. It's the same guy. Same guy. After that, it was time for a Gunther promo. So I was just about to tweet right after this, before his music hits, and I'm like, WWE, at least unless I'm blind, I did not see anything advertised for the show earlier on in the day for Gunther or Goldberg. And then when I saw the video package for Io Sky and Rhea Ripley, I'm like, you mean to tell me that the two main events of your two shows this weekend, Goldberg and Gunther and Ripley and Io Sky, you're not even going to have them on the show tonight? What the fuck? And then Gunther comes out. I'm like, okay, good. I expect Goldberg to be there as well. I think it would be really lame if he wasn't. And so Gunther says that this Saturday he's going to be taking on the great Bill Goldberg. And then the camera cuts to the parking garage area. Through the garage, in comes Goldberg. He pulls up in a car or whatnot. He's got that same shirt on, and he's just walking to the ring. The music plays. He comes down, gets in Gunther's face, punches him in the face. Down goes Gunther. Goldberg sets up for the spear. I was really hoping he would hit it, because if Goldberg would have beat up Gunther and then held up the championship, that would have been a guarantee that he's not winning. I still don't believe he's winning. I don't think there's any chance that he's going to win on Saturday night's main event. But how many years ago? 6 years ago, I was certain in my crown jewel predictions, or whatever fucking show it was in Saudi Arabia, that Goldberg would not beat The Fiend. And what happened? So I need to slow my roll a little bit, or settle my tea kettle, as Natty would say. I can't be so adamant and so confident that Goldberg's not going to win. But I think him taking out Gunther here is a pretty good indication everything's going to be just fine. And as we've said in the last couple of podcasts, when it comes to them closing out Saturday night's main event, it's going to be about Goldberg. This is Goldberg's retirement. So these fans that have these wild ideas, oh no, he's going to win the title and then he's going to come out on Raw and then Rollins is going to cash in on him. I don't see anything like that happening. I just don't. You could be right, but for those of you who follow my pay-per-view predictions videos, I tend to do pretty good with this stuff. So I don't think that that's going to happen. It might, I just don't think it will. So how do you close out Saturday night's main event? You got to go out on a high note, but you also can't have Goldberg winning the championship. I think the outcome is really simple here. Gunther has already shown some babyface tendencies. He's given the props to McAfee, and he's shown no fear to Seth Rollins. And I feel like somebody like Gunther, it'd be really easy just to kind of tip him over the scales there into that direction. And I think this could serve as one of those moments here where all he has to do is beat Goldberg, and maybe Goldberg has Gunther really close to defeat. Maybe he's got a spear in him and fans are starting to freak out and, oh my God, this is going to be it. And if that happens, I don't even know. I know I'm supposed to change my name to Mantar, but I don't even want to do that. I'm just trying not to think about that. So I think that he'll have Gunther down. Gunther will be shaken up. He'll be on the ropes, but ultimately he'll block the final spear or kick him or whatever, and he'll put Goldberg down. He'll beat Gunther, but Goldberg will surprise Gunther because Gunther is supremely confident. He keeps throwing out the 3 minutes thing. So I feel like Goldberg is going to surprise him. Goldberg is going to be way tougher of a fight than he thought it would be. Ultimately, he will beat Goldberg in maybe 6 minutes, 7 minutes, something like that. And it will be enough for him to show grace, and give Goldberg an endorsement and walk out of the ring with his belt and allow Goldberg to have the moment with his music playing and saying goodbye to the fans in Atlanta, that type of thing. I just think that's the way it should go down. And with the announcer saying, it was a class act by Gunther, as he's leaving, just giving Goldberg the entire stage. Walks all the way back through the curtain, through Gorilla, just completely out of there after a handshake. Or maybe even Gunther gets on the mic, or maybe Goldberg gets on the mic and says, hey, kid, you're the real deal. This is your house now, this is your yard now, type of thing. And maybe it's Goldberg that initiates that, not Gunther. So either way, you could do it that way. You could have Gunther saying, yo, you really gave me a run for my money. I respect you. Enjoy the ring. Say goodbye to your fans. Or it could be Goldberg getting on the mic and saying, you made a believer out of me, Gunther. Good luck with the rest of your career. And then Gunther raises his hand and does the thing. And then Gunther leaves and Goldberg still gets the moment. That's the ending that I feel is more likely than anything else you could do. I mean, you could have Seth Rollins run out there and dangle it. He could tease it, sure, but I don't feel like that's going to happen. Plus, he's going to be facing LA Knight earlier on in the night. So all you have to do there, Rollins is going to beat LA Knight, but maybe he does it in a way where, ooh, there you go. That's how you protect everybody is maybe Roman Reigns doesn't come back on Monday night. He might come back at Saturday night's main event. So Roman could come out after the Rollins and LA Knight match and then chase Rollins away So Rollins is not even in the fucking building for Gunther and Goldberg. That way you don't even have to worry about a briefcase cash in. So Roman could come back and do that, or you could save Roman for Monday night. Oh, my Tito is locked out. Hold on one second. Sorry about that. Tito got locked out of the room here. He was trying to get in. I could hear him messing with the door. So, like I said, you could have Roman Reigns come back on Raw, or he could come back on Saturday night's main event. Either way, they could do something in the Seth Rollins and LA Knight match to protect Goldberg and Gunther later on. You know, they could have LA Knight chase him out of the arena, or CM Punk show up. Punk is probably a better option than Roman. You know, maybe Punk comes back on Saturday, Roman comes back on Monday. You know, we didn't see Punk tonight. So I feel like whatever goes down with Rollins and LA Knight, we should see CM Punk, Roman Reigns, and or both. And it feels like now that LA Knight is going to get protected. That it probably, hopefully, just won't be a straight loss for him. This would be one situation where I would be okay with a DQ. You know, especially if you get a Punk or a Roman showing up, I think fans could, you know, tolerate the DQ a little bit better. And that way you don't have to beat LA Knight, and you're certainly not going to, you know, beat Rollins right now. You could. Rollins is the briefcase holder, so I've been saying that Rollins could easily take a loss to anybody here, and it would not matter. But, you know, he's also with Heyman, and they might just want to, you know, keep him rolling until he wins the championship, which I believe he will. It's just a matter of time or a matter of when Rollins will actually pull the trigger on the cash-in. But I just don't see it happening on Saturday night's main event. I think it would be awesome if Seth Rollins came in and cashed in at the end of the Triple Threat Intercontinental Championship match at Evolution and cashed in on Becky Lynch. That would be interesting. Real interesting. Speaking of Rollins, he's in the main event tonight against Penta. So Rollins versus Penta. And I was kind of mostly paying attention to this match, but usually during the main event, I've only got one eye on it because I'm finalizing, you know, the stream, turning my lights on, all that shit. So I'm watching Rollins and Penta. You know, this wasn't going to be a match that Penta won, so I was assuming it would be a lot of outside interference, but it wasn't. It turned out just to be a low blow, which Seth tried to disguise as accidental because he kind of did it with his head. But it was 100% on purpose, and he kind of smiled after he hit Penta with a low blow, and then he turned around and hit him with the stomp for the win. And then after the match, Rollins is calling out his cronies. Out comes Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker. They're making their way slowly to the ring, I guess to further the beatdown on Penta, when in from behind comes LA Knight, hits Rollins with a BFT, and then scurries away. So, you know, going into that main event tonight, I thought that maybe we could see CM Punk, but CM Punk, you know, isn't facing Rollins on Saturday. LA Knight is. So LA Knight showing up felt pretty obvious to me, and now he hit Rollins with the BFT. Final little build to their match on Saturday, and that was pretty much how the show went off the air. And I thought tonight's Raw was not bad. It was an easy watch because of some of the quality of the matches on paper. You know, when you're looking at a card like this and you say, oh, the weakest match was Kyrie versus Roxanne, that's pretty good because everything else was, you know, we had big matches here. And I thought tonight's show, while, you know, I think the Becky and Lyra and Bayley promo could have been a little bit better. I think they could have, you know, gotten a little bit more creative with what they did with Gunther and Goldberg as well. And, you know, a lot of what WWE is doing lately has felt a little bit uninspiring, a little bit lazy. But even despite that, I think overall tonight's show was still enjoyable, and it was not a difficult watch. So we are now on the road to a big weekend coming up. Let's see what you guys have been saying in the chat here. Got some super chats to answer. If anybody hasn't smashed that thumbs up button yet, please do that for me. I would appreciate it. We will knock these out, and then we'll probably call it a night. Let's see. Who was the first one coming in here? Thank you, Jonathan Cantorus. Good to see you back. Appreciate that $5, dude. Got a feeling this will all lead to War Games with Seth's Empire and Cross versus Sammy. Oh, yeah, Seth's Empire and Cross. Gotcha. Versus Roman, Punk, Jay, Penta, and Sammy. It could, man. We're talking July though, dude. But that's going to be that still can work because this is all going to be confined to Raw, and they had a lot of the same guys feuding with the Judgment Day for months and months and months. So I could actually see that being a possibility. War Games is happening in Petco Park right here in San Diego. So that match is going to happen. You have to have a match for it. So Rollins and his crew, for sure, feels like they're going to be one of the players in there. And having Cross's involvement with that might be fun television, especially if Cross, he's not a full-fledged member of the group, but he's there a lot alongside them, and having all of those people in the ring along with Scarlett or along with Paul Heyman, that might look pretty fun. I'd be into that. And they could still add one more person to the Empire. You got to think about that too, if that's what they're going to be called, Seth's Empire. But if we didn't get the Roman Empire, why are we going to get Seth's Empire? You know what I mean? But if they didn't do that, it's just got to be that. There's nothing on SmackDown they could do over there for the War Games. So I kind of like that. I like that setup. Terry Allen Jr., appreciate 5 from you. Attending with my brother, Evolution, his first wrestling show. We live in Georgia. Solo, I'm going to Saturday night's main event. Cool, Terry. All right, well, have fun. Got a big weekend coming up. So you guys are going to Evolution. Nice. You're going to have a fun weekend, dude. Thanks for the 5. Have a good time. Mike Witt has 5 for us as well. Love the fact that Penta is in these main events, but he's got to win one of them, right? He's a cross between Mysterio and the Demon. I love the guy. Yeah, Penta's great. Very marketable type of look and presentation there, and I can see why WWE wanted him, and he's perfect for their audience. They need another luchador. They need another Rey out there, that's being featured regularly, like in main events, not just like out there. So Penta, they've been looking for that next one for a while. A lot of people thought it might be Rey Fenix, but Penta seems to be doing better so far in WWE. We got 5 more from Jonathan Cantris. Thanks again, dude. So when is Finn going to turn on Dom and cost him the Intercontinental title? I'm thinking SummerSlam time is when Finn kicks out Dom of Judgment Day. Yeah, I feel like now that they've postponed the AJ and Dom match, feels like it's going to be SummerSlam at this point. They could do it on Raw. If Dom's cleared, they could do it on the Go Home Raw or something if they really wanted to. But I feel like Dom and AJ at this point is probably just going to be postponed to SummerSlam. And like I mentioned earlier, I'd love for AJ to win and then defend against John Cena at Clash in Paris. That might be fun. The Juliet is in here dropping channel memberships, this time hooking up Young South Wavy Network. Juliet, thank you as always for that. Appreciate it. Yes, Doug Unfunny, I forgot to mention that. No Bella's tag team. One thing I did not mention about tonight's show, I didn't write it down because I forgot, that Nikki Bella had a little pre-tape vignette type of thing, or promo, where she announced that she is entering the Battle Royal. So we have that big Battle Royal at Evolution. Nikki probably was going to work with Liv Morgan, or it was going to be a tag with the Bellas against Morgan and Rodriguez, but of course Liv got hurt. So it sounds like she is now in the Battle Royal. And the winner of that does get a title match at Clash in Paris. Thank you for pointing that out, and thank you for reminding me. 5 more from Jonathan. He is saying, where to go? What are the chances the teases of AJ Lee and Paige are true, and maybe, just maybe, Rhea faces one of them at SummerSlam? Okay, there you go. When I was talking about, well, you got to think about what Rhea Ripley is going to do. Rhea Ripley, one way or the other, whether the fans want to be butthurt about it or not, she is going to have a very significant match at SummerSlam that's probably going to be a title match. If it's not a title match, it ain't going to be, like just Rhea Ripley, randomly versus fucking Maxine or something, or Ivy Nile. It's not going to be just that. It's going to be either in a title match or in some sort of an attraction match. So if you have somebody making a big return in AJ Lee or a Paige, I don't know, Paige versus Rhea Ripley. I think Rhea Ripley would kill the both of them in a handicap match, to be honest. But something like that I'd be into, I can see Paige coming back. I kind of hope that she does, although she might not want to if it's a little harder to get cleared, with her in WWE. But as long as, she can wrestle and she wants to wrestle, maybe she doesn't. I don't know. But Paige coming back into WWE, I'd be all right with it. And AJ Lee, we've all been wanting to see. So if one of them made some sort of a return, I'd be into it. I don't know. I'm missing the teases. I don't know if there's been teases on TV. They're not registering with me, or I'm just not paying attention. But I'd be into that. Good to see you, Angie. Good to see you. Saram Creations, Max Pokebros here, VHS Nostalgia, some of the other names saying hello since I've been chatting. The Juliet's got $2 for us, Sol Ruka and Zarya. That's right, Sol Ruka and Zarya. Now help me out. Did they win a match to get that? Because Sol's got a title match at Great American Bash, right? So did Sol Ruka and Zarya win a match to get in, or were they just given it? Because I feel like that shit with tonight with the Kabukis was a little bit kabuki-ish. It was way too simple, and especially when Maxine and Natty are sitting right there, you could have just done a qualifier, and then after the match, just put Maxine and Natty in the Battle Royal. But I think they pre-announced them, so that's probably why Pierce had to say what he said. They didn't think it through. Big surprise in WWE. AEW has that problem occasionally as well. Both companies tend to sometimes not think shit all the way through and then realize they kind of found themselves stuck. So I think that's probably what happened there with the Kabukis. Let's see. We've got 5 from Mike. Appreciate it, dude. My prediction, Asuka turns on Io, costing her the title, setting up a dream match for me at SummerSlam between Asuka and Io. Just a feeling. That could happen. That could happen. Io Sky losing to Rhea Ripley could certainly come at the hands of somebody interfering there. And Asuka and Io, maybe Asuka and Kyrie might win the titles. I don't know. I would almost like to see Asuka, Io, and Kyrie back together. This time without a Dakota Kai or somebody else stuck in there, just the 3 of them as the Kabuki control might be fun, but something's going to have to happen in that match. That's going to be the main event of Evolution. So I can't just see it being a Riptide and a 3 count for Rhea Ripley. Even if Ripley wins the title at Evolution, which she might, I can't see it happening that simplistically, Like there's got to be more to it than that. And since Evolution has really been thrown together last minute, there's not even going to be a big audience there. That doesn't feel like the stage, if I'm Triple H, that I want to, crown my poster girl with yet another one of her championships, especially when MetLife, your SummerSlam is 3 weeks away in MetLife. You're going to go from a house that's going to have about 5,000 or 6,000 fans for Evolution. That's all they've sold. Last I checked, it's somewhere in the 5,000s. That's how many tickets they've sold for Evolution. So it's not going to be a big house. You got SummerSlam that's going to have 10 times more or more people there. Where do you think title change would be better suited? I feel like Io Sky should walk out of Evolution with the championship, one way or the other. Whatever it takes, cheating or whatever, or she just beats Ripley, and then Ripley can make a case to get a championship match at SummerSlam, and then Ripley wins the title back at SummerSlam. But given how the show has been thrown together, it's like you wouldn't give Hulk Hogan the title, at a show with 6,000 fans when you have another one in 3 weeks that's going to have 50,000 fans. It's not what you would do. So I just am not sold on the idea that Ripley's going to walk right into Evolution and win the championship. I'd be a little disappointed if it was that simple. Rhea Ripley's going to be champion again. And then after that, she's going to be champion again. And then she'll be a champion again after that. And then after that, she'll be champion 6 more times. So get used to that. Don't be mad because it ain't going to stop. But I wouldn't make one of those championships happen here at Evolution. I just wouldn't. Okay, so AJ and Paige have been teasing in their socials. Okay. Thank you for that, Jonathan. Didn't know that. Interesting. I don't know if I follow AJ Lee, but imagine AJ and Paige coming back together at the same time, considering the history they have. The women's division as it is now, those two could make the real case to be the pavers. All that shit we've been hearing about Nikki and Brie paving the way. They didn't pave nothing. I think you can make a case that both of those women, AJ and Paige, paved a hell of a lot more than Nikki and Brie, and they're connected. They're in a fucking movie together. So I think that if they made any sort of return, that would be quite awesome. Don't know if it would be associated with Ripley or not, but coming back in general would be awesome. Oh, there you go, Max. Cena versus Sheamus for the title. That would be great if, like, Cena beat AJ, won the title, and then he passed it to Sheamus. Like, Cena having all sorts of fun in his final, like, few months there. Like, and that would work if you, like, turned Cody heel. Like, if you do some sort of a double turn at SummerSlam between Cody and Cena, which some fans really think is a possibility. I'm still not totally sure. But Cody, it feels like he's inching closer to that direction faster than I thought he was going to. I thought we were still a year out from this. Maybe not. So if you had some sort of a big double turn, now Cody's the heel and Cena's the face, you know, and then Cena is going to, well, then he's going to be going into the ring against a babyface AJ Styles for the IC title too. But that's okay. That could be like a little love fest between the two. AJ and Cena. So it depends on, you know, how they do it. But if Cena was a babyface, I could see that happening. But he could remain a heel because AJ and Sheamus are both faces. So Cena doesn't have to turn at SummerSlam. He could just face AJ as a heel. After Cody beats him, if Cody stays face, Cena can come out and says, I'm done with that belt. I only have a few months left, and I was just looking at my resume, and I completely forgot that I haven't won the Intercontinental Championship. So you know what I've decided? I'm going to win that Intercontinental Championship. Who the fuck is the Intercontinental Champion right now? Who? AJ? AJ Styles. I challenge you at Clash in Paris. Just do it like that. Just do it like that. And then he can beat AJ, and then he can pass the belt to Sheamus. What's John Cena going to do at Survivor Series? Is he going to be mixed up in that War Games match? I can't see that happening unless he gets cashed in on by Seth. Then maybe, you know. But what does Cena do at Survivor Series? Are we going to get a classic Survivor Series match? Is it going to be Team Cena versus Team Cody, with the winner picking whatever stipulation is going to be in Cena's retirement match? Something like that that'll come up the next month. Might be Team Cena versus Team Cody. Maybe it's not War Games. It's just a match. I don't know. Oh, yeah, Drew McIntyre. Forgot about him. That is true. Keeping Asuka face, at least right now, would be good because she has been gone a long time. And the crowds don't really want to boo her. Plus, they just brought back her old original music. You know, I feel like if they're going to turn her heel right away, they might have just kept her old shit when she came back. So, yeah, it's a little fresh still. Fans really like Asuka. She's awesome. So that whole thing, turning heel at Evolution, is probably unlikely, but you never know. They're going to have to do some sort of finish in that match that's going to set up, you know, whatever the plan is for SummerSlam. And at the end of the day, I don't care if Rhea Ripley wins the championship. None of that bothers me. You know, this Ripley ho. I don't care if Rhea wins. I don't care if Mercedes wins. None of this bothers me at all. All I want is for EO not to be done wrong. As long as EO's not shafted in any way, I really don't give a shit. Because I feel like she really deserves to not be shafted. You know, she's tremendous. So I think that, you know, whatever they do, if they got to put the belt on Ripley, that's fine. Just try to protect EO. Make sure she has something significant to do at SummerSlam. I don't want EO Sky not booked for MetLife when you have 2 fucking nights of that. So just don't leave her out in the cold, you know, and make sure whatever you're doing with your women's championship, you got some good women on that roster right now. Holy shit. You know, EO Sky, Asuka, Rhea Ripley, Stephanie Vaquer, you know, and then on top of that, your IC division ain't half bad with Bayley, Becky, and Lyra going at it. So there are women on that roster that should make some very, very good quality championship matches, you know, at SummerSlam. And there's lots of different varieties of matches you could do with those women. So it just depends. Just depends. I forgot to mention Cedric Alexander Cortez or whatever. No, I didn't forget. I just didn't talk about it. But signed with TNA. Good for Cedric. We like Cedric. Yo, Amato, good to see you, man. Has Cena held 2 different championships at the same time? Yeah, I believe so. Because the WrestleMania 23 match between him and Shawn, they were tag team champions, right? So I think when he was tag champs with Shawn, and he might have been tag champs with somebody else, too, when he was champion. I wouldn't be surprised if there was more than one occasion. But if he held 2 belts at once, it would always be a tag in a situation like that. But see, and well, I guess you could count the 2 championships. Cena at SummerSlam 2014. I've been talking about that match a lot lately. He came out with 2 belts, but that's when They were just carrying the 2 belts. So, yeah, Cena knows what it's like to feel multiple golds. You heard it here first. Liv wins the Royal Rumble next year. Okay. Oh, Zayn G. Teddy Long. I thought you said Teddy Long passed away. Teddy Long's son passed away. That's a shame, man. There you go, Jonathan. Yeah, that would be great. AJ Lee or Paige showing up at Evolution would be perfect. Yeah, thank you for that 5. That would be a perfect place to bring one of them back. Would be Evolution. I feel like Paige. Like if you weren't going to bring them both back, let's say they're both coming back, but you're going to bring one back at Evolution and one back somewhere else. I would bring Paige back at Evolution, and I would bring AJ back at SummerSlam. I feel like AJ will get the bigger pop. You know, Paige is going to get a reaction, but I think if AJ Lee's music plays at SummerSlam in the middle of some match, or if she came out as a surprise entrant, and this is a bold statement, okay? If that happens, I think the pop will rival the Hardy Boys at WrestleMania 33. I'm not saying it's going to be greater. I don't think we'll ever hear a pop is bigger than that. But I think it will be up there, especially if the fans don't really see it coming. Like with the Hardys, there was some rumblings, but nobody really knew. They just won like the Ring of Honor titles the night before or whatever it was. So maybe not. You didn't really know. And when it happened, it was just glorious. You know, so I don't want it to be where like everybody can sniff it out. You know, and if you're expecting it, maybe not. But just have AJ Lee show up at SummerSlam, maybe to help CM Punk or maybe to attack a Bella Twin or I don't know. But just showing up in general, if it is a surprise and her music plays at MetLife in front of that crowd, I think it's going to be up there. I think it's going to be up there. Goldberg's father, is all this breaking just like right now? Goldberg's father, when did Goldberg's father pass away? Yeah, it sounds like, I don't know if these are stories that have existed for a few days or we're just finding this out literally in real time, but I wasn't aware of Teddy Long's son or Goldberg's father passing away. CM Punk returning in Chicago trumped the Hardys. Yeah, that's true. That was tremendous, that Rampage. I'm thinking of the Hardys, though, in the sense of like a stadium show. But yeah, like arena show goes to Punk, but I think it goes to him anyway. You know, that type of pop. So AJ won't have that, you know, and I don't think she'll have the Hardys. But, you know, somebody brought up Alexa Bliss earlier. You know, the way the fans reacted to her when she showed up to the Royal Rumble and AJ Lee's song, you know, it's not some Def Rebel bullshit. Fans will instantly recognize that when it plays. And that's going to create a pop. That's going to create a fucking pop. I hope it happens. There you go. Yeah, Becky Lynch, if she survives at Evolution, you know, she's going to be full of herself because, I beat 2 women at the same time and blah, blah, blah. So I'm so dominant, nobody can beat me. I'll challenge anybody right now. Out comes AJ Lee. Shit, yeah. Raw, SummerSlam, wherever you want to do that would be awesome. I mean, you could book it like, think of who Becky's husband is. What situation did he find himself in at WrestleMania 38? You know, you could do something similar with Becky, you know, where maybe Vince isn't going to be involved this time because Vince handpicked Cody, but maybe this time it's Adam Pearce, where he says, I'm going to handpick your opponent and just trust me on this. But if you did that, I think a lot of fans would probably start thinking that AJ is a really good possibility. But that might not affect the pop. You know, when that music hits, it still could be great. But I would like to see Becky do something. That's a good idea, actually. Have Becky do something similar to what Seth did at WrestleMania 38 when he took on Cody. And everybody knew it was Cody, but it really wasn't spoken officially, and even though we all knew who it was. Do the same thing with Becky Lynch. Oh, Tito with the big yawn, huh? That means he's hungry. He's ready for Dad to finish. What's up, buddy? He lays on the table a lot in the summertime because it's cool. So, all right, I guess we probably should wrap it up so I can deal with the little fella there. Give him some food. Yeah, if AJ was going to come back, when you have a show like SummerSlam that's so close and it's right there, you can't have her come back anywhere else other than that. SummerSlam has got to be where it's going to be. Hell yeah. All right, guys, that's going to be a wrap for tonight. Thank you so much for hanging out this evening. Don't forget, it's going to be a big, big week here on the channel. We will be up here Saturday and Sunday doing all sorts of All-In, Evolution, and Saturday Night's Main Event festivities. And then this coming Thursday, we're going to, I said 6 Eastern earlier, we're going to go 5:30 Eastern. 5:30 Eastern, 2:30 Pacific. This coming Thursday, we're going to predict all 3 shows, All In, Saturday Night's Main Event, and Evolution. So join us Thursday for that. We'll also talk about whatever we see on Dynamite on Wednesday night as well. And it should be a pretty fun week. Thanks again for hanging out tonight. Do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button on the way out the door. Make sure you subscribe if you're not. And I will be catching you in just a couple of days for your triple predictions video, your triple P. Peace.